What's good? What's good? What's good? Let me know if y'all can hear me. I don't have my mic. So I'm using my computer mic. But if somebody could put a one in the chat just to let me know my audio is okay. One in the chat if my audio is okay. If not, I'm gonna have to connect my mic, but I just need. All right, cool. Appreciate it. So welcome to this Sunday's Afro-Sundays. I am live from Cape Town, South Africa. It's about almost 11:30 p.m. here. So I think it's almost 4:30 p.m. on Eastern time, whatever like that. So I just want to continue doing the weekly Afro Sundays. Headed to my next destination um, that I won't disclose yet in the morning, but I just wanted to talk about the topic, which why South Africa reminds me of Black America. So so far I've been to three different cities in South Africa. Durban is I'm saving Durban for last. I've been to Johannesburg, and Johannesburg is a city I've been to twice before, so it was my third time in Johannesburg. And then I visited a new city called East London, and then I'm in Cape Town for the second time. So, and I've been to Durban twice already, so that'll be my third time when I go to Durban. Um, so I did drop a video already, just kind of talking about my thoughts on Johannesburg and things of that nature, and then just what I'm seeing, just far as the nightlife is concerned, um, how people communicate, the slang and verbiage they use out here, and then also code approaching, things I've seen some of my friends kind of do and experience, and we just kind of exchange, information. So a lot of things, which is not a bad thing. A lot of things reminds me of Black America. One thing I will say is that I'm I'm a guy that loves Durban for a particular reason. So I'll talk about Durban real quick. Why I like Durban. So one reason I like Durban is because Durban reminds me of places that a lot of let's passport bros travel to, which are typically warm climate, tropical climate. Typically places that have a beach, and so it just brings a different vibe. So that's why you got places like Rio, Dominican Republic, Cartagena, Colombia. Medellin is not on the coast, but Medellin is just a comfortable climate city. Thailand is an island. Pretty much we travel to these comfortable places, and so Durban fits in that narrative. It's on the beach. It's the warmest city in South Africa. Pretty much the warmest major city in South Africa. So Durban has kind of like those elements. So when it comes to like Johannesburg or even Cape Town, it does have a lot of similarities with the U.S. Um, so a lot of guys say like being in these cities, you don't really feel like you're in like a really foreign environment. Like you understand that you're somewhere different, but you'll catch a lot of times you'll catch yourself uh, just feeling like you're back at home. Season swag, so you like them Halle Berry tights and Derby. Man, it's so many. it's so many there's so many types, man. But they got them though. But like Johannesburg, I found myself like, man, because part of like I'm gonna use Johannesburg for example. Like part of it, a lot of it reminds you of like the East Coast. You have you have seasons like the U.S. There's like this grimy element, and when people speak English, it's different in Latin America, right? Like we may run into women that speak English, let's say in Latin America or even Thailand. For the most part, the English they speaking is pretty much it's pretty much straight English, right? They're not really incorporating a lot of American slang or black slang. Obviously I've heard Thai chicks and Dominican chicks use some slang, but in general, when they use English, they're learning English from school or just from like conversational things. They're learning English like the proper way. To make a long story short, a lot of these, let's say I'm gonna say women, you know, they're using slang English. You know what I mean? So and they're learning, they learn English in school, but they're developing their English further, in social media, in the reality shows. And so the good and bad thing about it is the good thing is that when you're talking to, let's say, women of South Africa, you can have very fluid conversations. Um, there really won't be things taken out of context like I've experienced in like other women that speak English. So you can have very fluent conversations with women in South Africa. I'll throw Kenya in there as well. You can have very fluent conversation, and that feels good to be able to have a fluent conversation, to kind of be yourself when you talk, and nothing not taken out of context. And then the accent too. Like South Africans, they have an accent that's pleasing to the ear. It's not like talking to some people in like let's say Uganda or something or other countries where they can speak English but they have like this thick accent and it's just kind of like it's not pleasant to hear. Trader Man said that accent sexy, not gonna lie. Yeah, they do have a sexy accent. It's very smooth, soft spoken. Season Swag said Durban has a lot of nurses working in Middle Eastern hospitals. Wow. I know things poking out in them hospital uniforms. Poking out. Man, speaking of poke out, man, I got a lot of I got a lot of content, man. Just the nightlife, man. It's amazing. Just the natural keyword natural beauty that they have out there. Um, but yeah, when it comes to language, they're using kind of the similar slang. They talk to each other just like the U.S. So I'm like, man, like they sound like us. Going to the clubs. I was just out not too long ago, day party. I would say like the first couple hours they was playing like nothing but straight hip hop, and they knew the words. It's one thing to like being like, let's say Latin America, or even like some parts of Asia, they play hip hop, and they understand they hear the beats and sounds, but they don't really can't really repeat the words like in these clubs in South Africa, like they repeating the words, like they know our music. You know what I mean? So I was like, wow, this is this that's remind me of back home. So I talk a lot about um, turn up cities like Houston because that's the city I used to live in, like Houston, Texas. So Houston, Texas has some people may say Atlanta, but Houston has the best nightlife in the United States as far as black nightlife. Houston has the best nightlife. 7 days. It's literally a 7 day a week city, and they got people do the bottle service. Some clubs, people. is more upscale, so people are pulling up in like G wagons, ranges, all that. You see that, and a lot of times people are dressed to impress. And so I tell a lot of people like, man, like some of these spots in South Africa remind me of Houston. It reminds me of Houston. So when it comes to nightlife, it being like Black America, that's a for me that's a pro. That's a pro. Because one thing that I sometimes I miss, especially some of these Latin countries, like let's say Brazil, Colombia, DR is okay. But like, if we don't want to talk about Brazil, Colombia, like having like that hip hop atmosphere, I mean, it's kind of missing. Reggaeton is cool, but even sometimes Colombia don't play a lot of reggaeton. They play a lot of house, um, these other genres. In Brazil, they pretty much mimic European culture when it comes to a lot of things. So I appreciate the hip hop and the nightlife in South Africa. Trading Man said they are influenced by Black American culture. Yeah, they're very influenced. I was talking to a couple of South Africans today, and they mentioned that he was like, man, I like your accent, man. He was like, sometimes I try to practice the American accent. And so I was like, yeah, that's cool. So I think it's good. They have a lot of respect for our culture. Um, and I show a lot of respect to them for the most part. Service. People have been very friendly, going out their way, good service, and so that is something I appreciate. South Africa. They have been very hospitable. Now, this is something that some guys are afraid of when it comes to, let's say, going to Africa, like rejection. Now, in major cities, you're not gonna get you're gonna face rejection. You're gonna face rejection, and so coming to going to any country, you go into the major city, whether it's Nairobi in Kenya, whether it's Johannesburg, Cape Town, um, you're gonna face rejection. It is not gonna be. It's gonna be mixed. You're gonna face rejection, and then you're gonna experience a lot of let's say women interested. You're gonna get a mix of both. So for the most part, that may remind somebody back home because they may be like, man, like I face rejection back home to a certain level. I'm facing some here too, and I'll say this: the rejection here ain't as polite like in Latin America. Like a chick in Latin America might be like, maybe she might say no, thank you. Maybe she might just smile, laugh, or just say, I can. Or it's gonna be a pretty. It's not gonna be abrasive, but some of these women, they will be abrasive. I seen a guy, try to talk to a chick. I don't know where he was from, but he like, just kind of like, tapped her. She was like, "Don't touch me." I was like, "Damn, she sounded like a chicken from the U.S." You know what I mean? Like, damn, you know. Um, and so it's nothing wrong with that, right? Rejection is normal or whatever the case may be, but um, a lot of guys, especially if you've been traveling, let's say started throughout Latin America or even Asia, um, some things are going to remind you um, of Black America. But that's kind of like the con, right? It's gonna be a little bit more rejection. However, um, it's 50-50. You're gonna get attention, but you're not gonna get everything you want. Like you can't have it 100% your way all the time. Trader Man says South Africa requires you to be clean cut, dressed to get a haircut. This is not DR or Colombia where you can wear flip flops, tank top, and pole. Yeah, yeah. Don't come to South Africa just just pulling up like lounging. You don't have to be um you don't have to be spending like a lot of money on fit, but just pretty much just clean cut. Clean cut. And for the most part, there's going to be a woman that's going to be attracted to you. It's going to be a mutual attraction. So um, I think a lot of guys that because I'm not like I said, I'm not Johannesburg and Durban. No, I'm sorry, Johannesburg and Cape Town are not my favorite cities. Durban is my favorite city, but I can see why a lot of people like Johannesburg and Cape Town. Um, so I don't want to generalize too much, but the people that do like those cities a lot from the U.S., they typically are people that live in the U.S., have no intentions on moving from the U.S., and for the most part, they like the U.S. You know what I mean? Maybe it's some things that they don't like, but they like, what I mean, they like the U.S. So South Africa is just a better version of the U.S. in a lot of ways. Culture, culture. It's a majority black country too. So I think a lot of people love these cities because it reminds them at home, and it's just a better version. It's just a better version of home. And then also there's a lot of investment opportunity as well. That's another reason why I find South Africa attractive for um, investment reasons. Um, what else as far as Black America goes? The food. There's a lot of nice restaurants. A lot of nice restaurants. Certain cities in the U.S. I'm gonna use Houston for example. They have lots of nice restaurants, and so there's a lot of nice restaurants, a lot of nice developments where these restaurants are at, and so you feel at home. You feel at home in South Africa. That's one reason why I've been trying to encourage guys to visit Africa, specifically South Africa, because it's going to be a different experience as far as infrastructure, as far as language, and then in my opinion, I'll speak for myself, but you will find a new appreciation for Black women. You'll find a new appreciation because guys always say I'm not going to go, I'm not going to go for a Keisha, but I always say Keisha in South Africa is way different than Keisha in the United States. You know, they might look the same, but once they open their mouth and you talk to them, you're gonna be like, man, it's gonna like make you think differently about how you feel about black women. It made me like I said in the past. I said when I went to Africa, it made me fall in love with black women again because I just seen a different what they say hardware. The hardware is so different. Um, so I could get into the nightlife, which is similar. That's something that you will see a lot. I talked about the language and things of that nature. So I would say, as far as the guys go, I guess the most things guys want to know about is dateability. Some guys, want a hookup culture. Some guys are looking for wives. Some are looking for investment opportunities. And some just want to see something different. So I still think that South Africa does not remind me of Black America when it comes to, let's say, the marriage culture. There are women that want to get married, and conversely, there are women that don't want to get married here. There are women that don't want to have kids. You will probably hear more and younger women under 25 or under. So yes, the feminist ideology or the feminist way of thinking or extreme feminism, however you want to look at it, a lot of women have adopted it for whatever reason. But what I want people to understand is that you can't compare a country, especially a majority black country, to black America. Let me see what's the population of black people in the United States, just to put it in perspective. So the black population, let me see. Let's see. They say estimated 42 million that identify as black. Let me see how many black people are in South Africa. I'm just curious. All right, so South Africa population is about 60 million. So the United States black population is, slightly less, about 10 million. So what you have a country, especially pretty much a homogenous society, you're gonna have different way of thinking depending on what part of the country they live in, what tribe they live in, things of that nature. So it's diverse, and a lot of times the cultures keep that intact. So you're not gonna have like in the U.S. where you pretty much see all majority of women own code on something. They own code when it comes to dating. Even if it's like women like in the U.S. had these meetings on um, how to handle men for the most part. So it's not like that in none of these African countries. You don't see an ideology where all women are on code, right? Um, which is a good thing. See, that's why I said say you can live an abundant lifestyle without any repercussions. Yes, sir. Corey Green, what's good? What's good? So yeah, the cultures, the different tribes, keep feminism at a minimum for the most part. I'll be honest with you. Most of the women that I've spoken to or kind of adopted this feminist ideology, they're the ones that when it comes to marriage, a lot of them say they don't want to do they wouldn't want to do the traditional marriage because a lot of different cultures have ways, traditions. For example, it's a tribe called Kosa or Kosa. I'm trying to get the clicks in, but in Kosa, before the ceremony, like the soon to be wife, she has to sleep outside in in some type of hut or something like that. She has to stay out. She has to stay outside for a certain period of time, let's say a week, and she has to cook for her husband. She has to cook for her soon to be husband and his family outside. She has to cook outside, and so she has to go through like this rites of passage to being a wife. And I just found that interesting that she kind of had to like go through like a suffering stage. And I talked to a woman about that. She was like, "Well, if I get married, I don't want to do the traditional, ceremony. I want to do like, pretty much like going to like what they call the civil way or the way we get married in the United States, just basic wedding and sign some paper. She want to do the traditional. So there are women, you know, that want to break away from certain traditions. The feminists, I ain't gonna say a lot of women with the feminist mindset, especially in Zulu culture, they don't like the idea of polygamy. And I talked to a couple people about polygamy. I would say at least in Zulu. I said, what percentage of women do you think is open to polygamy, and this is from a woman. She was like probably like 80%. She's like a lot of us take pride in that part of our culture, polygamy. So a lot of times, I realize I'm speaking to the minority, you know, and to be honest with you, a lot of times them the ones be have the feminist ideology. So that is going to remind you of Black America as well. You're going to see that, but as I mentioned, other times you're seeing it in Latin America as well. Rona Travelers, salute, bro. Let's see. Big Mike said, did you had anything ever since you went to South Africa? Did you have anything? What you mean? What you mean, bro? Let's see. Uh, yes, sir. Mike said, no excuse. The tiger stripes on the Zulu women or something else. Check said South Africa is his favorite country. Yeah, yeah. I seen him when he said that. But yeah, they got them naturals, man. Naturals. I wish I uploaded some of the videos I took at this spot. But yeah, it's natural. That's one thing I can say. That is one thing that doesn't remind me of the U.S. um, Brother Sam, a lot of guys talk about weaves and stuff like that. I'll comment on that. He said, "Sound like you prefer South Africa to South of America." I would say the jury is still out. Cause like I do feel like South Africa has the edge, at least to Colombia. But in a lot of ways, I still kind of feel like it might be a tie too. To be while we on the topic, and overall, I mean, Colombian women uh, aesthetically are more polished. Now the fine South Africans are very fine. They are, in my opinion, they got the best bodies, natural. In my opinion, they got the ones that got bodies. They got the best bodies in the world. Better than Brazil, better than Colombia. The ones that got bodies, I feel like it's number one here. They just have a certain small waist. They just have a certain phenotype where you could see a woman and you could tell she's South African. I could tell a Southern African woman anywhere in the world. They just have a certain, phenotype. And so, but Colombian women, I'm speaking of Colombians specifically, they just more polished. You know what I mean? You're not going to see a lot of Colombian. I don't think you're not going to see Colombianas with like bad skin. They're going to have, they're going to have the smooth faces. Obviously, they're more of a mixed country. So you're going to see, longer natural hair. You're going to see good dental work. You're going to see, you're going to see good teeth in Colombia, a lot of Latin countries, and in South Africa. Since we're talking about South Africa, you're gonna see some women that have gold crowns. Some maybe have a gold tooth. Some maybe needs, some may need braces. You're gonna see some with bad skin too. So even though South Africa got the baddies, if we want to compare them to Colombia, Colombia, they're a little bit more polished. But in Colombia, you get a lot more surgeries, and then you don't get them as curvy. Colombianas are curvy, but they're not as curvy as the South Africans. So, and then you don't get the language and things of that nature. So, and if you like Black women, there's Afro Colombians, but it's not. It's just not a lot. It's not a lot as if you're going to majority Black country. So yeah, less makeup too. That's a good point. There's less makeup as well. It is what it is. Um, but yeah, when it comes to like, I feel like there's a unfair stereotype put on a lot of African women that they wear a lot of weaves and things of that nature. What I noticed is that a lot of them, they wear braids. I mean, braids is common all over the world with black women. I don't see a problem with braids. It's low maintenance. Um, a lot of them cut their hair off, have low, pretty much have low cuts. So it's easier to wear a wig if you got no hair than trying to put on a wig and you got cornrows and it's feeling all jammed up. So a lot of times you'll see little girls with with their haircut, with their haircut low. But being here, I have to understand that maintaining hair costs money. Maintaining hair costs money. Like everybody ain't got money to be trying to fix their girl's hair and do this and do that, buy products. So it's just easier just to cut it low. So but women are more comfortable rocking baldy or not wearing the rig or not wearing weave. It's not like all women do that. So it's a misconception a lot of people make that is just so super common. He said, would you say that the connections with women in South Africa are more genuine out the two? Yeah, I think it's definitely more genuine. I think it's pretty black and cutting, black and white. If they interested, they interested. If they not, they not. Um, you're not gonna really get women that just kind of smile and really just have bad intentions, just to see what they can get out of you for the most part. Um, women, I will say, similar to the U.S., there are a lot of women. They may expect you to spend money on. That is something. Now for guys from the U.S., it may not be a lot of money, but I mean it's kind of expected. Maybe they want you to buy them an outfit or throw them a couple 20, 40 bucks. Similar to the U.S. now, even if they working, it's just kind of like one of them things that comes with the territory. Because a lot of times they know you want to, they know you want to smash. So why smash you and not get some of it? So I think it's kind of a world trending thing. I don't want to just put it on American women or some of these African women. I think women, even in Colombia, women want to be taken care of. They want to be taken care of. Who out of the two, who puts more emphasis on how much money you have? Right now, I would say definitely U.S. because there's a lot of guys that pull up in nice. Um, that's where the similarities come from because now women in the U.S. don't care about how much money you got, right? You got celebrities and athletes get rejected by average women in the United States. You got guys that's from the U.S. that feel like they could step up into these countries and feel like they could just pull whatever chick they want. It's not really about money all the time. A lot of times it's about cultural connection, or in the U.S. clout. Marv L says South African and Ugandan women I have seen here. I think when it comes to the Nyash department, I think Uganda and South Africa, they running shit when it comes to that. He said, "How's the sex game with South African women compared to Latin American women?" I got South African people that watch my channel. They would be very offended of me addressing that, Big Mike. He said, hygiene. Hygiene. I think I haven't noticed anything like crazy. I mean, they wear deodorant. It ain't like some of these countries where deodorant is not something that they use or buy. I think hygiene is, I just say normal. Um, the only country that just had exceptional hygiene has been Brazil. I mean, when I say exceptional, it's just they do things that's out of the norm. They take multiple showers in Brazil. Um, they take good care of their breath. You know, So yeah, it's normal. Season Swag said, "Real talk, A spend 1.6 trillion in the matrix. Most women globally want to tap into. Yeah, they definitely do. Oh, so that's what I was gonna mention too. That reminds me of Black America is they got whips out here. They got whips out here. They got you know I don't follow cars as much as I used to, but I swear I've seen a G wagon I have never seen in the U.S. Even some of the I've seen range I never seen before. I've seen some whips out here. Now I do know that some of these European manufacturers they have different models for different countries. So that's probably why I haven't seen some things in the U.S. But they they got they the whips out here. So if I lived in, let's say, Cape Town or Johannesburg, I would feel like I was in Houston. Like I gotta come with it. Like and I don't like that type of I don't like living in that type of pressure to be having it. But I would feel pressure to be living a certain, having certain things, and that's just my personality. So if I lived in these places, like I just feel like I would have to, show up. Durban for some reason I just don't feel like it's like that. It's just a little bit more like a country city. It would be something like going to the South, the old South of the United States, so to speak. But yeah, they do got the whips out here, so that's definitely gonna remind you of like America. There is an element of crime, but not the United States is a little safer when it comes to a lot of things. We don't really have to worry about our phones being taken or snatched in the United States. You don't really have to worry about what type of jewelry that you wear out in public. You could go to some of these major cities, Atlanta, Houston, and you can rock a Cuban link chain going to the club. They're not really worried about somebody trying to get you. So, but yeah, South Africa is definitely definitely more robberies um, out here. Um, and I know people, in my peer circle that had incidents of phones being taken or the wrong place at the wrong time. So yeah, that is something you know you have to be aware of. So Sincere Supreme said, "Would you consider retiring Johannesburg opposed to Nairobi?" Now retiring, it depends. It depends. I'm a person that believes in legacy, so I want to be able to have something to pass to my children. So if you're a guy, and let's say you live in, I'll put it like this: if you're not concerned about legacy, then it don't really matter where you retire to, because if you're okay with dying, and let's say not having kids from a woman in that country. Because when I think of retire, I'm thinking that you're gonna purchase a home in one of these countries, so you don't have to pay rent. Now, if you're cool with renting for the rest of your life, then I feel like it's a toss up. But if you want to own something and not give your money up to rent, and you want to pass something on to a child, like South Africa is better because you could own land freehold outright, opposed to Kenya, where foreigners can't own land outright. Now you can own a condo, but a condo don't hold value like that over time. So if I had to pick the two, I would pick South Africa, but it wouldn't be Johannesburg. It'll more likely be Durban. Okay, okay, got you. So yeah, but yeah, yeah. In short, the dating culture. I'll say this: I'm gonna do casual dating, which should be self-explanatory. and then serious relationships, long term, which let's say something that could lead to marriage. So casual dating will be better in South Africa than the United States. It will be it will be better. It'll be better. Um, it's similar to Brazil. It's pretty Brazil. It's pretty Brazil like as far as casual dating goes. So I would say casual dating would definitely be better for men in South Africa than the United States for sure. Um, so when I say casual dating, that includes hooking up, one night stands, things of that nature. The actual dating experience, going on dates, how much money you spend on a date, it could vary, right? A lot of chicks when they go out to eat or go out, a lot of these places, I would say this, they have a lot of European influence. So buying a bottle of wine or a bottle of champagne is kind of it's kind of I don't want to say common, but it's not it's not unheard of to see regular people getting a bottle of wine. So a lot of times, you know, a date may consist of getting a bottle, a nice meal. A lot of some of these women like doing the hookah, or they call them shisha, or hubbly, different names I hear from them. And so you'll find yourself spending some money on a date. To make a long story short, in a lot of ways. So it depends on the woman for the most part, but it's not a cheap date in South Africa, whereas in Latin American countries, like stuff just not expensive. I mean, the dating is not the expectations of dating is not like that in Latin America. We're on the travelers, what Alex said. Okay, let's get to safety at night on the streets. All right, so when it comes to safety, let me see how much battery I got. So when it comes to safety, I'll start with Johannesburg. I put my recommendation on the area. So Johannesburg has different areas like Sandton, Midrand, Rosebank, Maboneng, others too. Rosebank is something that is something I liked. Um, you pretty much, in my opinion, you pretty much can't be walking around and in Johannesburg after once it get dark. I mean, if you're in like let's say a tourist friendly area, you can walk around, maybe walk around the block or restaurants that's kind of in proximity and there's a lot of lights. But in general, most people that I know got robbed. They were just walking around like wrong place, wrong time. So when it comes to safety, um, you do just kind of have to go from point A to point B, especially at night. No, not too much walking around and things of that nature. I mean, if you want to be 100% safe, not saying that you just got to stay locked in your hotel or Airbnb, but if you just want to, the ultimate prevention is, wherever you're going, take an Uber taxi point A to point B, even if it's a short distance. That's something that I learned. That's something that I learned in even in Ethiopia. I passed up getting a taxi because I wanted to save a couple bucks, and then I get my phone pickpocketed just because I wanted to save a couple bucks on getting the Uber. So you might say you and peso boxing. I mean, I was on his live. He pretty much was like, he switched it and put it on me, saying, "Well, if no excuse want to do it, whatever." But uh, yeah, I think it's just entertainment talk, to be honest with you. But I told him, I'm definitely open. I train, so it ain't like something that I'm against. He said, K Town make you want a dime snack piece, but it's a beautiful place. Yeah, it's a beautiful city. That's what I wanted to mention. What it remind me of, like Cape Town, remind me of like Washington D.C. It remind me of a little bit of Chicago because they got the pier. It remind me of Baltimore too because Baltimore has like a pier as well. So um, it, it it definitely reminds me of like Johannesburg. Some parts remind me of Newark, New Jersey, or Camden. If you've been to Camden, man. And speaking of peso, he mentioned this about Johannesburg. There's a lot. You see a lot of men out. That's one thing I didn't like about Johannesburg, especially in downtown. I never seen so many men just out on the street late at night. It's scary. You don't know what's going on. He's like, why is there just so many men just walking around at night? Not nothing to do. You're gonna see that, and that's why you know the element of safety, the element of danger is there in Johannesburg. And a lot of times you'll see in the nightclubs, you'll see more men than women because in dangerous cities like Chicago, you're gonna have more, you're gonna have a higher ratio of men at the club than women because if women don't feel safe, they're not gonna go out. Opposed to if you going out in the South, you're gonna see more women than men because they feel safe. So you're gonna see more women out. That's why you see more women in a lot of places in like let's say Atlanta, Houston, maybe DC too, to a certain extent. Let's see. He said, I will be visiting in July or August for a month. How does Pretoria compare to Joburg? I haven't been, um, but I do, people have said, Pretoria should be a place to visit, which is better to retire. Why a 5 grand a month budget? I mean, those are expensive. Joburg is, if you want to live comfortably, it's not the cheapest. I wouldn't. It's not the cheapest place. And then the weather too. Like it get cold. Like when I think about leaving the United States, I want better. Not only better women or cheaper cost of living. I want better weather too. The weather in the United States suck. We the greatest country in the United States, but it sucks. We got seasons. It get extremely cold. It get extremely hot. The only comfortable cities we got in the U.S. is I used to think it was like Southern Florida, but really it's like San Diego. It's like a constant mid 70s year round, and so we really don't have any comfortable cities year round in the United States. It's and that's something I realized with traveling. Like the weather in the United States sucks. you know, it sucks. Who would want to who from another country would want to come and retire in the United States? Like it's really unheard of. But I'm saying all that to say is that if you want to, if you thinking about those areas, just understand that Johannesburg is it's probably the coldest city in South Africa in the wintertime. You're talking about a lot of these cities could be 80 degrees during the day and like 40 degrees at night, like a temperatures, uh, big temperature swing. So I ain't trying to, I ain't trying to live in a cold city, especially if I'm moving to another country or retire. I can't do it. I can't do it. Um, let's see. I got about I go for about 5 more minutes. If anybody got any questions, man. But just people that don't know, I'll be hitting Tanzania and Uganda too, um, while I'm out here as well. So looking forward to kind of giving my opinion on those countries. I'm getting conflicted reports. Obviously some people are going to be biased because everybody got bias on countries that they like. So I'm curious just to get my 2 cents on these other countries. He said, "What's the time difference there?" It's 7 hours. Right now it's 7 hours. Before daylight savings, it was a 6 hour difference. But and I'm speaking from the East Coast, so it's a 7 hour time difference from the East Coast to South Africa. 6 hour time difference. When there's no daylight savings. Yeah, it's almost one here. So but yeah, man, I appreciate people tuning in. I hope I at least generate some interest on checking out South Africa. I'm all about I'm all about people when you travel to multiple cities. That's something that I'm really big on. Like if you come to South Africa, please try to go to two cities. You know what I mean? Because some people go to one city and they'll paint the whole country a certain way going to one city. Please go to two cities. Flights between cities are pretty cheap. So, you can plan accordingly and hit up at least two cities. Um, any country that has major cities do that. Especially if you go to Africa. Hit up if you go to South Africa. Definitely hit up two cities. I just recommend Durban and one of the other cities. Um, that's just what I recommend. Harvey said, "Would you recommend looking for a wife, Durban, Medellin, Johannesburg, Cartagena, and Cape Town?" I wouldn't look for this is something I've learned, and sometimes I kick myself because I don't take my own advice. Find, take your time, find a city that you would want to live in before looking for a woman. Because when you marry a woman, you marry her city. Even if she may be open to moving somewhere, like you're marrying her city. You know, so you could be marrying a woman from an expensive city and she want to be home. So now you got to consider like, damn, this this city is expensive. Imagine marrying a woman from Washington D.C. or L.A. and she wants to be home, right? You know what I mean, you don't want to you want to accommodate a woman where she wants to live as far as location wise goes. Like especially if she's a family person. So if you have a wife in an expensive city, you're gonna have to boss up. So I look at places that I would look at places I could afford to live that I would want to live into, and then kind of have the forward thinking of saying, is this a city that cost may go up over time? So I'm stressing this because when we talk about when you got Medellin, Cape, you got basically four cities that's what I mean that's expensive. Cape Town expensive. If you want to live in Cape Town, Cartagena is expensive now. Medellin is expensive. And I'm just saying if you want to live a certain comfortable lifestyle, it's not super expensive. It's not as expensive as the United States, but it's expensive. You are expecting to spend less money going to a foreign country. It's expensive. As far as wifey material, Medellin, no. Cartagena, it's a mix. You're gonna have to really vet. Cape Town, yeah. Johannesburg, yeah. Durban, yes. So if I was to answer for myself, I would probably for me I would probably look in Durban because of the weather, um, the relative cost and like the culture. Zulu culture has a certain culture that that I admire. So I'm looking at culture, weather, and cost. And so that's how I would start looking for a wife based on where I would wanna live. If it's Colombia, because Colombia is Medellin and Cartagena, um, it would have to be cities that you like. So if you like Medellin, just know what comes with it. It's going to be harder to find a good woman, and it's going to be expensive if you want to live comfortable. I personally like other cities in Colombia, but they're a little bit more dangerous. So so Colombia is kind of like hard to say. I do like San Andreas though, just to throw that out there. Last question I'm gonna answer. My battery getting low. He said, "How many more countries are you hitting up in Africa?" I'm just hitting up. I'm hitting up two other countries, Tanzania and Uganda. So those will be two other countries I'll be hitting up. But yeah, I appreciate you guys tuning in. Y'all will see me on next Sunday in Afro-Sundays. I won't mention where, but it'll be another country. So until then, I will holler at you guys later.